I was talking to an older Frenchman recently who said very eloquently in his native tongue, "Don't go thinking it is 12 o'clock when it is actually 1400 hours." And he had to translate it for me because I don't know French, but it was beautiful as he said it. And it really struck a chord within me because he was imparting wisdom on me. And it's something that I have known about for a while. Many of us do on the spiritual awakening journey, that timing is very, very important. And our relationship with this notion of timing is really actually quite complicated, because on one hand, we are taught that time is linear, and on another, we are taught that it's pretty much imaginary and a function of a construct of our minds. And then we start opening up to things like quantum traveling and reality shifting, and we start to tangibly see and understand this, but yet at the same time, there's a part of us that is strapped into a world that is bound by a linear existence of time. And so it creates this almost an imprisonment, because you start shifting into other worlds. You see the clocks go crazy and weird, and all of the signs and symbols along the way start to do impossible things. Maps break, messages load differently, you lose service, call history gets wiped. It's really an incredible experience. Random things show up in your apartment and disappear. Your dishes are washed even though you didn't wash them. And just, it's remarkable, it really is. And yet you find yourself slipping into a world that is still bound by time, which raises this question: if quantum traveling is really a thing, reality shifting is really actually a phenomenon, then why are we still shifting into Gregorian calendar ruled worlds and existences? It's a serious question. And then there's this other relationship with time. For those who may not be experiencing quantum shifting and quantum traveling, there's another mysterious bucket, and that is this notion of divine timing, that things happen outside of your awareness, but they happen for your benefit or protection in some cases. And this one, I find, needs a little bit of shadow work for people on the spiritual awakening journey, particularly when they are relatively new. And it's because there is this expectation that we, as the lotus of control, operating from our point of awareness and our reality construct, and also believing that the universe has our back, this creates a little bit of a over-reliance that our needs will be met exactly when we want them to. Because if manifestation is a thing, and many of us are convinced that it is, then we should be able to manifest at will and at our heart's content, because everything is abundant. There are no limits, right? And these thought structures and belief structures are given to us by people like Abraham Hicks. People is kind of a misnomer, but you understand. Beings like Abraham Hicks and others, Bashar, another great example, where we internalize that indeed time is an illusion, everything is abundant, I am abundant, and therefore I am also a powerful creator and manifester, except things don't happen in the time I expect them to. Why is that? If everything is functionally normal. Well, it turns out as Abraham Hicks will say, that this is to our benefit. I happen to agree that manifestations don't work out in the timing that we want because our emotional state is so turbulent sometimes, and our desires shift on any given moment, any given day, that if we were seriously manifesting all of our heart's desires, we would waste a lot of our manifestations. Abraham Hicks doesn't quite say it like this. This is how I see it. But essentially, there is a cooling off period to make sure that you actually are in alignment with what you want, and that it's coming from your highest vibration possible. And that may not be a high vibration, just FYI, in any given moment. But over repetitious events and intent signaling and behavioral alignment and acquisition of pulling things together, acquisition of the desire, right? It's this whole process. What you do is you make sure that you actually really, really want that thing that comes. That person, that object, that job. And then there's a host of other obstacles that could be put in your way to test you, to give you a contrast experience, to clarify your desires. And so this falls into the shadow work lessons part of it, that just because you want something and desire something doesn't actually mean that it is in alignment with your highest good and interest. And sometimes the universe will send you things to help you realize that along the way, if you are not so hyper attached to sticking with it as many of us are. And so when it's coming from an egoic place, we sometimes fail these tests because we're like, I want what I want, and I said I wanted it, and therefore I will have it, even if it decimates me in the process. So that's another little package of lessons in of itself. But then there is another timing component. That is when you are in alignment and everything checks out. You are not hyper attached to whatever it is that you are desiring. You're in flow, you're checking in with your guides, you're getting all the green lights, and then you get a message from the universe, actually several messages. It's like, don't go thinking it's 12 o'clock when it's actually 1400 hours. What? How could this be? How could everything in this decision be giving the green light that it feels good, that it's reciprocal, that I'm ready and my life circumstances are ready, and it seems like everything is shaping up there. A couple of delays, couple of obstacles. Okay, not that big of a deal. Things have to come into alignment, not really attached to it. And then it's like, wait a second. What's really going on here? Then you find out more, because this Frenchman holds a piece of the puzzle about your decision, almost as though he's channeling from someplace beyond, that strongly advises you against exactly what you thought was in alignment. This is where things get really confusing, because timelines are always shifting, and being adjacent to a timeline that is in close proximity to a vortex means that you could be a little off target. And the way that things are lining up, I like to think of it as this principle of cosmic reordering, where you are literally shifting the world around you at a certain point in your awakening process. You are literally creating all the time. Moving particles, shifting walls. You can get little glimpses here and there. It's subtle. You have to train yourself to see it, to process it, and to categorize it without dismissing it, because the brain wants to just dismiss a lot of the weirdness that we see. We see something out of the corner of our eye, and most of the time we just don't pay attention to it. But when you start this awakening journey, especially if you are dabbling in reality shifting, what you'll notice is that your sensory system will start to detect the fluidity of the material world. Just little snippets here and there, almost as though the solidity of the environment, of the four walls that surround you at any given moment, is an illusion in of itself. And so you become accustomed to understanding that when you chart a course to go somewhere, to meet somebody, to fulfill a particular role or a duty or a project, you understand that it's this bidirectional process, and that the cosmic reordering principle means that particles have to adjust, and they do so in tandem. And it is perfect, but sometimes there are unforeseen instances of things that get in the way. Or let's say you're trying to meet up with somebody, a soul partner that you haven't met yet, but you can feel them. And they might be an important portal for your destiny, and they happen to be at a particular slot in space and time, and the fabric of space and time. And you're both moving constantly, and you're deciding and you're creating all day long. And in any given moment, you can actually be shuttled off in a different direction. And so could they. The past comes calling out of the blue, and the next thing you know, somebody's packing their bags and getting on an airplane and going to Peru. Your rendezvous point, which was originally scheduled at a certain location, perhaps they were going to bump into you on the street at 11 a.m. under an oak tree. And oh my gosh, yeah, I can't believe it. And you could feel the serendipity of this meeting, and we're getting signs and communication from your spiritual entourage team that everything was smooth sailing and in alignment. And then all of a sudden, the record just goes, Ree! This is another part of the interesting dynamics with timing, and why it is so important to be fluid in your ability to be in a ready position, to be on the balls of your feet, agile, ready to spring in any direction, with the understanding that the ball that you're supposed to hit with the most precise timing might change trajectory based on who's hitting it at you. And you want to be in the proper position with the right amount of space, not too little, not too much. There is a little bit of latitude for you to be slow, to look back a little bit, but it's this beautiful orchestration, this beautiful dance that requires so much finesse in the preparation, in the readiness, and then in the execution. And this is where timing can actually be amiss. And I said earlier that it's always perfect, but this is one of those instances where it can get a little unpredictable, because people have free will and sovereignty. And we connect destiny lines with places, people, things, jobs, organizations. All of this beautiful orchestration of a dance is so intricate. And we connect our points of destiny and fulfill our manifestations through other people. Almost all manifestations come through the hands, the words, the thoughts of other people. There are some exceptions, but most of the time in this world, when you get a job, you get it through other people. When you get material abundance, you get it through other people, through clients, through colleagues, through referrals, through business ideas where people are spending their money, or you're raising capital and somebody's backing you, you see, and so on and so forth. So as a result, our free will, when we are exercising it, we're not doing so in a vacuum. It is connected with our external world that we are trying to line into. We are coming into alignment with all of the configurations possible, which is actually quite a lot when you consider the scale of everything. When you consider all of the decisions that you make in every single waking moment, you are building lifelines. You are connecting with adjacent lifelines. You are constructing worlds around you, unless you are an NPC or unconscious and asleep. Then the world is creating on top of you and you're fitting yourself in. But at a certain point, we all become creators, and then we are literally creating our reality with every breath, every thought, every action. It's creating this beautiful honeycomb of an orchestration of little pockets that we can, like little chutes and ladders and wormholes in our everyday existence, get to another lifeline or a continuation of ours where we meet up with other travelers. But they need to be on the other end. And so when it appears that the universe is preparing you for a big move, a change up, a shift in direction, and you're getting all the go signals, and then you're getting the record, stop, and you're scratching your head saying, what's going on? It could be because you would get there, and the person or the people or the organization or the company or the opportunity wouldn't be there in the amount of time that makes sense for you. So there's a redirect. The universe is preparing you for a redirect. And these are very, very important moments to be in flow with, to be in tandem with understanding, particularly if you're trying to meet up with any sort of divine partnership, twin flame, soulmate, business partner, karmic partner. The orchestration of these relationships means that you will get feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down, go, no go, about the timing, and forcing it. I know I spoke in binary, but forgive me, that was stylistic. The attachment to it happening because your lease is up on, let's say, September 1st, or because you got a severance package that only lasts for 6 months, or any number of timing components that your old world has put a constraint around, to then push things, to force things, even though you are getting signs not to, is actually to be operating from a position of lower vibration because you're not trusting. And instead you are trying to control and dictate and to show up there anyway. I'll be damned, going anyway. And then you get there, potentially the wrong time, thinking it's 12 o'clock when it's actually 1400 hours. Trust the timing.